He bent to grab the package, and I almost tossed him the usual thanks. But something else slipped out, something sharp, reckless, like a spark in dry grass. I didn't mean it, not really, just a jab to see what he'd do. Sam looked up, eyes locking on mine, and for a heartbeat, the air went tight. Neither of us blinked. I swung the door wide, and he followed me inside, the box in his hands, his shadow trailing like a warning. Before we dive in, if you've been here before, thanks for coming back. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't. First time welcome. You're in the right place. Let's get to it. The porch creaked under my bare feet, the late afternoon sun slicing through the slats, painting the wood in bars of gold that burned my skin. I didn't need lights. The day's heat hung heavy, and that cardboard box by the steps looked innocent enough. Sam was already crouched over it, white t-shirt stretched tight, work boots scuffed from honest days. He shot me that half smile, the one I'd seen too many times. Like nothing could shake him. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching him. "Since you're already down there," I said, the word slipping out like a dare, "why not bring it inside?" He froze, his eyes narrowing, not angry, but sharp, like he saw right through me. Then he straightened just enough to meet my gaze, one eyebrow cocked, waiting for my next move. I didn't laugh it off. I didn't back down. I pulled the door wider, letting the silence scream between us. He didn't speak, just hefted the box and stepped inside, his shoulder grazing mine as he passed. The house wasn't quiet anymore. It hummed, like a wire pulled too tight. I shut the door, the click loud in my ears. I lingered there, watching him set the box on the table, his hands steady but slow, like he was weighing more than just the package. He stood there, holding it, waiting for me to say something. I just nodded toward the living room, my pulse kicking harder than it should. He moved, and I followed, the sinking sun flooding the room with gold, turning the air thick with something unspoken. He set the box down by the couch, deliberate, like he was laying out a trap. He didn't move right away, just stood there, thinking, his stillness pulling me in like a current. I stayed by the doorway, watching, then drifted to the kitchen. "Water?" I asked, reaching for a glass, my voice low, like I was afraid to break something. "Sure," he said, calm, like time didn't exist. I felt his eyes on me as I moved, my sundress brushing just above my knees, the fabric catching the air like a whisper of trouble. No shoes too hot for anything else. I leaned into the fridge, the cool air hitting my skin, and when I turned back, glass in hand, he was at the counter, close enough to make my breath catch. I handed him the glass, my fingers lingering. He drank, set it down, his eyes never leaving mine. "Nice place," he said, voice soft, like he was testing the water. "Thanks," I shot back, leaning against the counter, trying to act like my heart wasn't pounding. "In a rush today?" I asked, the words heavy with something I couldn't name. He shook his head, slow, deliberate. "Not if I don't need to be." I reached past him for another glass, my arm brushing his, the contact sending a jolt through me. I turned to the sink, pretending it was nothing. He didn't budge, his eyes on the counter between us, where the space felt alive, electric. I left my hand there. We stood in silence, the kind that presses down, makes you feel every second. His hand rested on the counter, close. I glanced up. "You always hang around this long?" He smirked, a glint in his eyes like he knew something I didn't. Only when I'm asked. My palm stayed put. I edged closer, not thinking, just moving, like I was drawn to him. His fingers shifted, barely, but enough to make my skin burn where they nearly touched. The space between us was nothing now, a thread ready to snap. I didn't pull back. He turned, his hand grazing mine, steady, like he'd already decided something. My pinky brushed his finger, a spark I couldn't ignore. He didn't flinch, didn't move his hand. His pinky met mine, deliberate, like a promise. I looked at him, and he was already looking back, his gaze cutting through me. No words. He lifted his hand, took mine, his grip firm, no hesitation, like he'd been waiting for this. His thumb traced my skin, slow, setting my nerves on fire. He pulled my hand toward his face, pausing, like he was giving me one last chance to run. I didn't. It hit me hard, that small move twisting something deep inside. He held my hand a second longer, then let go, but his eyes stayed locked on mine. Calm, focused, dangerous. I didn't know what to say. His other hand rested by my side, close enough to make my pulse race. I touched his shirt, fingers grazing the fabric, then pulling back like I'd been burned. He stepped closer, the counter at my back, trapping me in a way I didn't want to escape. I didn't move. He tilted his head, watching, waiting, like he could see every thought I wasn't saying. He leaned in, close enough I could feel his breath, but held back, like he was daring me to make the next move. I was awake now, every nerve screaming, like I'd been asleep my whole life. The tension in me snapped, and I didn't even know I'd been holding it. "Close the blinds," I said, voice low, barely mine. He moved fast, crossing the room, his steps sure, like he'd been waiting for a reason to stay. I reached for my necklace, fingers fumbling, the pendant slipping like my thoughts. I moved slower, trying to hold on to something solid. The tension eased, but something darker took its place. I turned from the blinds, now shut, the room dim, heavy with shadows. The necklace hung loose in my fingers, forgotten, like everything else that wasn't him. I stepped closer, my fingers brushing near his collarbone, lingering, testing the edge of something I couldn't name. Our lips met, slow, sure. A quiet collision that shook me to my core. No rush, no doubt, just us, locked in a moment that felt like sin. His hand found my shoulder, steady, anchoring me to this thing we'd started. We barely moved, the silence louder than any words. The room faded, distant, like it didn't exist. His other hand rested at my back, light, but heavy with intent. I touched his shoulder, slow, my hand trembling with what I wouldn't say. He stayed still, focused, his presence filling every corner of me. Our foreheads brushed, a fleeting pause in the storm. No words, just closeness, a pull we couldn't fight. He glanced at the counter, then back at me, a question in his eyes, silent but clear. I nodded, my heart pounding out a yes I couldn't speak. He stepped closer, hands steady, lifting me to the counter's edge like it was the most natural thing in the world. No rush, just certain, like we'd both known this was coming. I settled there, knees close, not touching, but close enough to feel the heat. My hand found his face, fingers tracing his temple, pulling his gaze back to mine. The next kiss was slower, deeper, a fire that burned without flame. The world stopped. The silence carried everything we wouldn't say, heavy with guilt and want. My hand stayed on his shoulder, his near me, not grabbing, just there, promising he'd stay. The room was still, like it was holding its breath. Whatever we'd built didn't need words, it was there. Raw, shared, undeniable. He pulled back, eyes locked on mine. I nodded. A small move that said everything. He helped me down, gentle, his hands steadying me like I might break. We moved through the living room, steps soft on the hardwood, each one pulling us deeper into something we couldn't undo. My hand rested on his arm, feeling the calm that hid the storm inside him. No one spoke. The silence was enough, thick with everything we were. We sank onto the couch, close, our eyes meeting, holding a truth we didn't need to voice. The kiss lingered, soft, unhurried, like time had bent to let us stay. My hand stayed on his shoulder, feeling the steady heat of him. He leaned in, close, not pushing, just there, like the world was just us two. A quiet warmth grew inside me, not from his touch, but from the weight of what we didn't say. A soft sound slipped from me, half shock, half surrender, like I'd just seen how deep this had cut. His hand found mine, loose, gentle, a quiet vow in the dark. The room melted into silence. Nothing else mattered but this shared stillness that owned us. My head tilted back, eyes shut, sinking into the closeness, the feeling of being seen, truly seen. In that moment, the world stopped not from noise, but from the heavy piece of everything falling into place. One question before you go: what should she do next? Drop it in the comments. I'll read them. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for what's next. Thanks for watching.